Broads Media.
What is going on, everybody? Well. Danny Briere with a splash. Danny Briere with a bang to kick things off. Now, there's so much to bite into. What does this mean for the draft? What does this say to the rest of the league? What does this say to the locker room? I love it. There's a lot here. I want to take you back, though, because when Danny Briere got the interim tag removed and when Keith Jones was named president of hockey ops, I was so flooded with the Sixers playoff run and with the Phillies that I didn't get to explain how I felt. With Danny B, it seemed inevitable that this was going to be his job. He didn't have any experience, but one thing that I did hold my hat on was he was going through the proper channels to learn how to be really good at this job. He put in the work. It wasn't, look, you're a star player at one point or a stud player. You're great in the playoffs. You played in the league. Here's a job. You don't have to earn it. You don't deserve it. Here's the chair. It wasn't about that. There was a lot of talk from a lot of national reporters, a lot of people up in Canada saying that he would grind. He'd be going to this small, dinky rinks. He'd be speaking to scouts. He really wanted to absorb all the information on how to be great, how to be fantastic in this role. So that left me optimistic. Also, there was buzz around the league about him maybe landing in Montreal at one point. So my point is there was interest on what he could possibly blossom into in a market like Montreal. There's something to that. So I was cool with it. When Flyers named inexperienced Keith Jones as president of hockey ops, I was willing to give him a chance because I think he's a very smart hockey mind. I think he sees the issues with where this current team is and where they need to go. Super sharp. I didn't fault anybody, though, for thinking, here we go again. Here's two Flyers alum getting the opportunities. Why are they going back to the old well? While giving all of them a clean slate. Both of them. Do work. Prove to me that you could be phenomenal. Totally willing to see their moves first and give them a chance. But I'm sorry. Because of all we've seen and them constantly old Flyers, and here's two inexperienced old Flyers. I get it. I understand if you rolled your eyes. Now, though, I think it's easier to sleep at night because Danny Briere showed off some savviness. And we know that Danny Briere is the guy making the hockey decisions. Jonesy's involved. Josie's in all the meetings. He's also incorporated into the business side of things, and he's a mix between the hockey side and the business side, and he'll be a voice for that, and that's phenomenal. I think Jonesy does excellent with this city, right? I mean, there's a reason why we all love him. There's nobody who doesn't like Keith Jones. He's a fantastic human being, and I think he's got a pulse on what's happening. He's doing inside the booth or inside the glass during the NHL playoffs and during the Stanley Cup Finals while he's got a job as the guy here in Philadelphia. It's amazing. He's always around the game. So I'm starting to feel better about it. What they did to get rid of Ivan Provorov is deeper than what it seems on the surface. And Charlie O'Connor laid this out in a way that's easier to visualize. So if you look at it as a double trade, so really they made two trades. They got a first rounder, which is number 22 overall, and a 2024 second round pick for Ivan Provorov. That's trade one. Trade two is they got a second rounder and a prospect who was drafted in the second round for swallowing the contracts of Walker and Peterson. That's something interesting to pick up the phone, get a third party involved, eat some money to gain more assets. Now, do you want to move up in the draft? Do you want a bunch of shots fired in the draft because you have so many holes to fill? You want to restock the system. Now you get 5, 6, 7 shots at it. You get a bunch of opportunities to land a stud. There's multiple ways you can do this. And I think they're willing to maybe see if we can move that 22nd up and get somewhere in the teens. All the experts are saying this is extremely deep draft. Or do you go from 7 to 5? You could sell me both ways. And I'm going to say that a lot right now because with a lot of big decisions that need to be made with the Flyers, I can be sold both ways. The Carter Hart thing. Now, when you pick up Peterson's contract from the Kings, it's less about Peterson and more about we're willing to take that money. We're willing to eat that contract. I think they love Urson. They believe he can be a starter. Don't get me wrong, though. Carter Hart is nasty. Carter Hart is really good, elite, fantastic. You'll see him dominate. It will haunt you. You just need to make sure if you do trade Carter Hart eventually, that what you get in return is okay. Where whatever Carter Hart does, that's fine. Because you got a 100-point guy. Because you landed a star who is a number 1 center. Who's the face of your franchise. Because you're going to get a haul if you do trade Carter Hart. I'm very conflicted. He's only 24 years old. By the time this rebuild gets steamrolling, he could be 28. He could be 29, which is a great age with a lot of experience. He's still in the legitimate prime of his career. 4 years down the road, Carter Hart, he's still in good shape. A lot of good years left. He's special. A lot of the reasons why his numbers might say one thing right now is because of the defense in front of him. Nick Sealer. Oh, man, don't even get me started. Provorov, who stinks, by the way. He's so overrated. His time here was done. He eats a lot of minutes. Whoop-de-damn-do. How come he always felt way better when there was a number 1 guy next to him? It's because he's not a number 1 guy, but he thinks of himself as a number 1 guy. Someone explained to me, who's very close to the team, that at times it was very Ben Simmons-esque. He always smelled himself. He thought his shit didn't stink. Everyone else is the problem, not him. I deserve more power play time. No, you don't. No, you don't. He sees himself as an offensive weapon. He's not. Quite frankly, I think if he actually dedicated himself on being a shutdown D-man and forgot about going up in transition, forgot about maybe making offensive plays, and just focused on being hard to play against. Stick on puck, outlet passes, get the team out in transition, make good tape-to-tape first passes in your D zone, and let the team get out on maybe an odd man rush. Let's go. Make smart, simple, steady plays. Sometimes being a number 1 defenseman isn't sexy. You just do the dirty work. You do the grunt work. You stop the opposing number 1 forwards on the other team. But that's not how he played. And that's not how he thought of himself, which is problematic. Look at Columbus, though. They're not taking on the full salary. The Kings got involved. They don't look at Ivan Provorov as a number 1 D-man when you have someone like Werenski. So he'll play a completely different role. Fine. When I say he stinks, I mean in regards to being a number 1 D-man and as highly as he looks at himself. He could be a second pairing guy. But that changes literally everything. The cap hit isn't the same for Columbus. They're looking at him as less than what his deal says. It was time. I also don't know how much some of the guys in the room felt about him after everything played out when JVR and Scott Lawn, and JVR is not even going to be here anymore, so it's irrelevant. And I don't think that this move is because of what happened with warm-ups on that one particular night. But I think sometimes there's a stank in the room. And I think he played a role in the stank in the room. Shows you the difference, though, in who's pushing the buttons. The man named Chuck Fletcher, I almost forgot his name, and I would love to forget his name and forget his existence. He couldn't trade an expiring contract in JVR to a playoff team. To a team making a playoff push. Someone who's been around this league for a long time, a journeyman, has the nose for in front of the net, willing to sit in front of the net, muck, could play on your power play, screen the goalie, fantastic at tipping pucks too, can score, couldn't find a way because he had no sense of what the market was. No read. That's the difference on someone who was handed a job because his father was so talented and made a name for himself. So Chuck Fletcher gets handed something. Don't try and tell me that when he was an assistant, stop it. His name, Fletcher, got him the chair. While Danny Briere worked, put in the time, learned. And that shows on the first transaction that really moved the needle for this fan base. I think this let us breathe a bit because it gives you a sense that he gets it and it falls in line with the message. The message is this is going to be a while. We are rebuilding. What Jonesy and what Briere have said publicly, this all literally falls in line. And the reason why I brought up the Carter Hart thing so early, and I don't know if he's going to be here or not. I really can't get a read. Some people I speak to who cover the team say it's probably there's probably more of a chance that he's here in a Flyers uniform next year. Then there's some others reporting that they believe he's going to be out of town pretty soon. And this is starting to legitimately start to carry around the NHL world to the point where SportsCenter up in Canada did a hit where it was strictly on Carter Hart. The segment was what team should go after Carter Hart? What's his ceiling? How great is he? Why are the Flyers ready to move on from him? All of that. That's their SportsCenter hits. Strictly a huge block and a huge window on what teams need to try and go after this cat. So, some believe that because Danny Briere on multiple platforms now have said something similar to, we're willing to listen. We're willing to pick up the phone. As long as the price is right, as long as we see value, and we think it could help benefit our club, we'll talk. Well, why do you say it? Because you want people to hear it. Because you want people to do it. And there's two ways to look at this Carter Hart thing. If you want this process to move quicker, you sell off your very limited amount of assets now to gain a bunch more and hit the restart button. Or you do that with everything else, but keep the talented netminder. Because he's so young, that by the time this thing starts to pick up steam and there's more excitement, he's still at a very reasonable age to be fantastic. I'm torn. I don't know. I really don't. I like both options, to be honest with you. I do. So who's next? Kevin Hayes? I think Kevin Hayes gets out of here. Maybe you use some of the assets you acquired to help with that salary. Columbus was the name tied to Kevin Hayes throughout the back end of the season. And the fact that Provorov was the one to get shipped there without Kevin Hayes makes me wonder, are they still in talks? Is it going to be the next shoe to drop? Here's what I do know about Columbus, though. Rick Nash and the Blue Jackets, very tied together, right? Rick Nash is super close. We're talking wedding party with Kevin Hayes. Kevin Hayes is unhappy, desperately wants out of town, said he sees the direction of the team and knows that he doesn't necessarily fit. Where's Kevin Hayes goes? Where's Kevin Hayes goes? Where does Kevin Hayes go? Is Columbus still on the board? Is Rick Nash going to help out his friend? I hope so. Please. I'm here for it. So the full return, a first rounder, 2 seconds, Grange, who was a former number 2, a second round pick, Peterson and Walker, who's a D-man. And the way that it kept getting released and announced, there was more and more and more. Originally it was, hey, the Flyers are getting Peterson in return. Hey, Walker's added to the deal. There's also a first-round pick. There's also a second-round pick. And then here's a tweet 5 minutes later. Actually, there's a second-round pick. Actually, there's a prospect. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. That's what made it so damn electric. It was nonstop. And then Danny Briere had a presser. And I loved what I heard in the press conference. He states, I actually haven't even seen Grange. I trust my guys. So let me get this straight. Dan Hilferty, which is a big part of Comcast now, face of the ownership group, if you will, Jonesy, and him and Jonesy are on the phone contacting each other 4 or 5 times a day, always in communication. Briere, doing the hockey side of it all, is just trusting the scouts. You have people in place and letting them do what they're supposed to do. There's roles. You hire people to do the roles. I haven't seen the guy play. I'm excited. I've heard good things. I haven't seen him play. But they're telling me that there's some things on the list and he checks off those boxes. A good amount of them. I'm intrigued. I haven't seen him play. That matters to me. And it also matters to me that now, when the Flyers start calling, there's respect. I think respect was earned for Briere. And I remember when he went to his first set of GM meetings with the interim tag. I wanted to hear what he learned from that experience. And he's like, oh, these guys are great. There's only so many limited jobs, and, I want to start building my relationships. And in the back of my head, I'm going, there's been savvy GMs who've been in that position and been in those GM meetings a billion times. There's always respect, but I wonder, can I get over this guy? How much can I destroy him? How much could I fleece him? He's like, it's great learning. It's a brotherhood. We want to help each other out here. Yeah, Danny? Do they really want to help you out? Or are they just worried about their own job, their own team, and making sure they're still employed? Are they working Briere? That was my question. That was my thought. You have to do something for them to look at you in a different way. Getting a third team involved, eating some salary, asking other teams to take some of Provorov's contract, getting some second rounders prospect. There's legitimacy to this. And now the ones that have been around the block acknowledge, hey, that was solid by Danny. Good for you. Now, for all the greats that are in those GM meetings, there's also Chuck Fletcher's, okay? So, I hope Danny is on the side of looking at someone equivalent to Chuck Fletcher going, oh my God, this guy's a nightmare. Oh my God, I'm going to rip this guy into shreds. I can't wait to call that team because I'm totally going to annihilate him. Hey, give me a call, Bill. I don't know who Bill is, but I'm saying, hey, Bill, Johnny, looking forward to communicating in a couple months. You want that top pair defenseman? Provorov? All right. You looking for a winger, top 6 winger? Let's talk. Smiling, thinking, this guy's a bum. It's fascinating, huh? All right, we'll rip through calls. A lot of calls. I know we're not going to get to all of them. I'm almost wondering. See, this is where Flyers are at now. There's so much to discuss oh man, like I almost want to do a Flyers show again, just reacting to your calls, and this being my thoughts show. There's that much to talk about with the Philadelphia Flyers. The draft just got that much more exciting. I can't wait. Here I am looking up some draft picks. I'm looking up the scouting reports on the top 15 guys because after Connor Bedard and then, of course, after probably 1 and 2, there's so much that can happen here. I'm getting excited. Jonesy was on with Anthony Gargano, and he was in studio for like an hour or two, and he was talking about Claude Giroux. And I'm a diehard Claude Giroux fan. Sometimes I think he doesn't get the respect he deserves by some here because of maybe the lack of success the franchise had while there were 10 billion other issues. He was the captain. He was the face of the team. 1,000 points, 1,000 games. That's an unbelievable career. He's extremely talented. And I'm a Giroux guy, right? But Tyrone and I go back and forth, and he respects Claude Giroux, but he thinks I look at him too highly. Jonesy was asked about G. And he said, well, yeah, I mean, he's close to a superstar, but we're looking for guys who get over 100 points. Claude Giroux got over 100 points once in his career. The closest he got after that was, I believe, he was either 92 or 93 points. Jonesy's vision, and Ty brought this up, I think it's an excellent point, and it hurts me to say as someone that loves G. Jonesy's vision is I need more than Giroux. 1,000 games, 1,000 points isn't enough. We need 100-point guys consistently. Look around the league. Look at what the McDavids, the Dreisaitl's, the McKinnons. You can get a defenseman like Cal McCarr. I know points are different for D-men, but someone with that type of skill set. Year in and year out, you're flirting with triple digits in points. Season after season after season. Not once in a long career that a lot of people would sign up for. Game-changing, game-wrecking talent. Franchise-changing. Now, how do you feel about that? Keith Jones says Claude Giroux, not what we want. To a degree. No one's going to be mad with having Claude Giroux's career in your franchise, but that's where their mind's at. They're not settling for anything other than, we see Colorado, we saw the Pittsburgh Penguins when Crosby and Malkin were in their prime, never missing the postseason. This is the first time since I can remember that they weren't competing in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We want consistency. We want longevity. We know what this franchise was once all about. We know what this fan base demands, and we've seen the Wells Fargo Center be electric. We need to get back to year in, year out dominance. You expect us to be deep into the spring. Really early into the summer, middle summer, whatever the hell it is, whatever the calendar says right now. The Vegas Golden Knights. Now they have to act on it. They seem to be. Step one is in the description on everything that they've been saying, which is great. But I thought that was fascinating. It's a perspective. It shows you the goals of the front office. And even Dan Hilferty, which is a big difference from Dave Scott. This guy's hungry. He wants it just as badly. I sort of get a John Middleton vibe. I want my damn trophy. I get that vibe from Dan Hilferty. He's obsessed with this. He wants it just as bad as we want it. When you have someone who's at the top, who's starving, who wants to be the guy that everybody recognizes as the one to help get this back on track, where Ed Snyder would give him a big bear hug and hug him and squeeze him for maybe 60 minutes straight, just in pure joy that it finally got back on the rails and you were competing and you had star talent. It's no longer, I want people in the stands. That's been what they tried to do for years now. Fill the seats. We need people there. Stop it. No. You know how you get there? Instead of focusing so much and being so in love with ticket sales, shut up. Get the players on the ice. We'll be there. You'll get what you're looking for if you just focus on the hockey side of it. Stop focusing on the business side and the business side only. There's areas of the Flyers and Comcast that need to focus on, okay, how do we market? How do we do business stuff? All that. Fine, obviously. There's a role for it. But let's get the hockey people focusing on hockey, and then ultimately that falls in line with your end goal anyway, which is making money. But you make more money when your hockey team is good. And they set themselves up now where they're acquiring assets. And the question becomes, are you comfortable with possibly trading Carter Hart? I'm not comfortable doing it. I can't say no if the package wows you. And if this is what you're getting for Ivan Provorov, can you get a big truck worth for Hart? And if that's the case, how do you turn it down? So I do it if the deal's right, knowing that he's going to be unreal. He doesn't stink. He's amazing. Amazing. Imagine him on a team that has defense. Imagine him on a team that has structure. Legitimate stick on puck in the high slot instead of backdoor wide open tap in passes. A team that stinks, getting toasted. Defensemen getting beat wide, turnovers nonstop, high grade A scoring chances, turning the puck over. Unacceptable. He's going to be outrageous. So if you want to hold on to him and say he fits this because he's still super young, I get that. And if no package is right, you don't just do it to do it. And I don't think Danny's going to. Danny's not going to just do something and say, see, I told you so. Trust me. Look at what I'm doing. It's flashy. It's sexy. I got 9 transactions in the last week. You don't just do something to do it. It's all methodical. It's all thought out. There's a real game plan right now. There's a real blueprint. And it's detailed. And it starts by getting Ivan Provorov out of here, which his time was just up. He could play in this league. Not what he thought he was, but he could play in this league. Fine, ship him to Columbus. Less pressure. They stunk last year, although they lost a lot of manpower due to injuries. Here, though, the clock expired. Time ran out. He got stuck. There was no more progression. In fact, I think he actually declined. Year after year after year. And it's not just the surrounding pieces. If he's what he thought he was, shouldn't he help spark the franchise take steps in the right direction? Him not being as talented as he thought is why they stumbled, is why they failed, is why it was crumbling down. Now, a lot of fans are asking me, Broge, what about Risto's contract? I think Tortorella liked Ristolainen by the end. I believe I remember asking him during the end of the year. He joined our show, not every Wednesday, but basically majority of the Wednesdays throughout the season. And then when the year ended, I say, what did you learn from some of these guys? Who stood out to you? Who made the most progression? Morgan Frost was a name. Noah Cates defensively plays a full game up and down the sheet of ice. And he said, Risto, man, like Ristolainen really turn into someone defensively that was night and day from where he was in the beginning. Still ways to go. Still plenty to learn. But from where he was to where he is at the end of the year, pretty impressive. Doesn't mean the contract's good, but I think Tortorella can work with that. And say year 1 to year 2, let's keep the improvement rolling. Now, Sanheim's another question. Cam York, who's he? Is Zamula a name? There's a lot there. Tony D, He's got 1 year left on the deal. Maybe he's someone you move at the deadline because they want to help out their power play, whatever squad calls. Maybe wants to help out the power play a bit. I don't know. I don't know if Konechny's a move. I don't think he is going to get moved. I'm just reading the lines here. I'm reading between the tea leaves, and I'm listening to a lot of what Jonesy is saying and what they're saying on all different platforms. And Jonesy was asked about Konechny, and he said, like, that's a guy who can put the puck in the net 30 times. That's a guy who we think still has more. And the way he carries himself, the chirping, hard to play against, determined, brings an element, brings a presence. Not Matthew Tkachuk. I'm not saying he's Matthew Tkachuk. I think Matthew Tkachuk is a way better player, but he kind of fits that energy, kind of fits that mold. Pest in your face, cross-checks you after the whistle, not afraid to grind you down, but then can also light the lamp, can also score, also has fantastic hands, has a hell of a rip. There's value in that. You need that pestiness. I think they keep him. But who's Sean Couturier? See what I'm saying? There's a lot here. There's so much to bite into. So I guess this is kind of my initial thoughts. I love the move. I'm excited. I think this puts us in a comfortable spot for Danny B. With a lot of uncomfortable questions coming up. Specifically looking at in between the pipes. Where do we go from here? Can't wait. Can't wait to see the next splash that happens. All right. So, like I said, a bunch of anytime hotline calls. I think what I'm going to do is we're not just going to stop it here. This is going to be a one-time thing. Hey, I mentioned the Flyers, and then poof, they're gone and they evaporate. I want to apologize to the Flyers fans for not keeping up with them during like the hot time of them making all these new announcements and changing their front office. We'll be talking very soon. We'll be talking again soon on this Flyer squad. We'll be reacting to your calls. If you want to leave a call and haven't yet, 856-442-9805. React to what we've seen. Appreciate it. You guys are awesome. We'll be talking very soon.